money. That's the answer to 99 out of 100 questions. The latest from Sharon Jones and the Dap Kings from their new record, I Learned the Hard Way. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We're now into hour number 2 of episode 174 of MediaMonarchy.com. It's June 18th, 2010, and my name's James Evan Pilato. I'm your host and webmaster of the site and show, MediaMonarchy.com. We are recording from home in the home studios of Media Monarchy here in Portland, Oregon, as PRAradio.org is under some well-needed construction, keeping us up to date. So I wasn't able to do the live show at the PRA this week. But of course, as always, the show's available from all the fine affiliates like PRAradio.org, ZeroPointRadio.com, RevereRadio.net, CascadiaPublicRadio.org, FROlympia.org, Radio23.org, and so many more. Huge thanks. And again, Radio 23 provides the high-quality feeds of Media Monarchy to get the 192 kilobit version of the show, suitable for rebroadcast if you've got a micro station, a pirate station, internet station, community, non-commercial, whatever you got. You don't have to ask, just play the show. Again, this is all open source intelligence, public domain. It's all out there for you. Get in touch with me any number of ways, share information, send me news tips, all those things. Keep this whole contract going. So before our break there, we touched on the disturbing two-faced kitten born in West Virginia. But the West Virginia worries don't end there, as we're going to get an update on the Massey coal mine explosion that happened back at the beginning of April, where 29 men were killed in Montcalm, West Virginia, the worst mining accident in the last 40 years. I'll tell you right now, and I'll probably remind you again of the flashbacks to our original story again back in April, 29 killed in Massey coal mine explosion. And the tie-in with this is our fantastic interview with Reverend Billy on Mountaintop Revival, RevBilly.com. But the two updates that we're going to hit right now, first, crack found in floor of West Virginia mine where 29 died, now that they're getting in and checking it all out. Of course, just like in the BP situation, and again, just like these stories are all intimately connected, both overtly and covertly, implicitly and explicitly, exoteric and esoterically. Union and families sue to open federal probe into West Virginia coal mine explosion just a few weeks before the April 20th explosion on BP's Deepwater Horizon rig in the Gulf. 29 coal miners died after an explosion at Massey Energy's Upper Big Branch mine in West Virginia. Although the Mine Safety and Health Administration has launched an investigation into the disaster, unlike the open federal investigation into the British petroleum oil spill, the probe into Massey is taking place entirely behind closed doors. The United Mine Workers of America and families of victims killed in the West Virginia coal mine explosion recently filed suit in federal court to open up the federal investigation.
Let's move from worker safety from the spill to West Virginia.
Well, we're going now to another environmental disaster and human tragedy that took place just a few weeks before the explosion on BP's Deepwater Horizon rig in the Gulf. On April 5th, 29 coal miners died after an explosion at Massey Energy's Upper Big Branch mine in West Virginia. Although the Mine Safety and Health Administration has launched an investigation into the disaster, unlike the open federal investigation into the BP oil spill, the probe into Massey is taking place entirely behind closed doors. In the case of the Gulf oil spill, officials from BP, Transocean, and Halliburton have testified in public. Their interviews broadcast live on the internet, but interviews in the Massey probe have been conducted in private, and transcripts are not expected to be released for months.
The United Mine Workers of America and families of victims killed in the West Virginia coal mine explosion recently filed suit in federal court to open up the federal investigation. For more on this comparison between the two major disasters, we're joined here in New York by Jeff Biggers. He covers mining issues in Appalachia. He's the author of Reckoning at Eagle Creek, The Secret Legacy of Coal in the Heartland. Comes from generations of coal mining families. Talk about the latest with Massey. It has been, to say the least, to think that Blankenship, the CEO of Massey, has been saved by Hayward is astounding right now.
It's totally astounding, and I think your last clip on BP is very important because we're not only seeing an energy policy based on crisis management or mismanagement, we're really seeing a corporate culture of corruption that is being covered up by our government right now. And then I think the fact that we're having these behind closed doors investigation of the Massey disaster is really emblematic of ultimately a thinly veiled cover-up that's happening. This is the situation, Amy and Juan. Not only does the United Mine Workers are not allowed to have a representative in these interviews that are taking place behind closed doors, but the Massey lawyers are able to be with their members during their investigations. It's a complete double standard. I have a level of hypocrisy that's just mind-blowing in terms of protecting the interest of Massey Energy.
And again, Democracy Now! Foundation-funded left gatekeeper media. But we got to get our news where we can get it. And again, good news comes from all sources. Bad news can also come from all sources. But they're so completely correct in getting into the double standard and the cover-up going on. And again, all these things kind of tie in with the memes that have come with the new Obama-Messiah. We do have other updates and further stories for you to flesh out all of this. More from huntingtonnews.net, that's out of Huntington, West Virginia, and more from the Associated Press on this latest union and family suing to open federal probe into West Virginia coal mine explosion. Which, of course, perfectly segues into our latest BioWars EnviroHealth updates, connections, consensus, and lighting, by which I mean lightning. So first, as we've now been doing for the last several weeks, and we do have the flashbacks for you to go back through the story week by week, and everything that we've collected and that we've seen pretty much points to the Gulf oil spill as some sort of false flag event with the prior knowledge, the insider trading, the drills, the connections, the compartmentalization, the cover-up, the destruction of the scene, all those things that we see throughout all the other catalyzing catastrophic events are all there. So let's first get the oil spill updates, and let's grab an interesting and important article from just one of the numerous amounts of fine folks I was able to meet at the conspiracy conference a couple weeks ago in California. Dr. Lynn Horowitz, along with Sherry Kane, have a new article, Vatican official tied to BP, Goldman Sachs, and media censorship in the oil fiasco. This gets into, again, all of the connections that we just briefly went over. And of course, let's also mention the Halliburton company negotiating the purchase of the world's largest oil spill cleanup, Boots and Coots, just a few weeks before. Goldman Sachs offloading 44% of their stock in BP 3 weeks before this. Again, we've already talked about insider trading, prior knowledge leading up to a catalyzing catastrophic event. And when you do the numbers and do the percentages on average put options and call options, things preceding events such as these are off the charts. And again, give us a lot to dig into and bring a lot of questions. Something this article from Lynn Horowitz gets into as well. They get into further in their new documentary, Pharma Horrors, which I got a copy of, and I'm going to write up a quick review blurb of their new movie, The Showtime Sting of Penn and Teller. They get into, again, all the media connections between Sumner Redstone and Rupert Murdoch and Lloyd Blankfein and all those guys connected to Partnership for New York City, PFNYC. But what we basically want to mention in this article is a guy named Peter D. Sutherland. Besides Blankfein and government Sachs backing stocks in both BP and Halliburton, another red oil-drenched herring is Peter D. Sutherland, the outgoing chairman of BP, also the current non-executive chairman of Goldman Sachs International, and of course, he is the consultator of the extraordinary section of the administration of the patrimony of the Apostolic See. In other words, Sutherland is the chief financial advisor to the Pope.